Hello, my quilting friends. My name is Leah Day, and welcome to episode 95 of the podcast. And today I'm chatting with Brandy Maslowski. She is the quilter on fire, our first Canadian quilter to be on the show. And we're going to be chatting about a lot of different things from traveling and teaching. Brandy just did a quilting cruise, and she is right now planning a retreat. We're also going to talk about keeping our studios tidy, and she has several different tips for that. And you know, that is a big theme for me. I am trying to keep my spaces neater and cleaner and less distracting, and just to be more creative in all of my spaces. So we chat about all of these different things and really had a good time. So I hope that you're looking forward to this podcast. And if you'd like to scroll down below the video and check for a timestamp, if you want to jump right into the interview, you can just simply move your player forward to get right to that timestamp. But I always like to do a little introduction at the beginning of my podcast episodes to share what's going on around the house for me. And I share not only audio for the podcast, I also share video too, so you can see what I'm working on. So here we go. This is my Eye of Calm Goddess quilt, and I am right now sitting here hand appliquing this beautiful quilt. Now I am going to make a change on this. I got it to this stage and stopped because I have some fabric color issues that are going on here that I know some things are going to change. So I know I can applique the blue pieces together because I'm happy with those. I'm happy with that first curve of purple, but that second curve of blue right here, that's going to go away. I just don't like her striped hair. Her hair ended up how it ended up looking. This is a pregnant goddess, just a little description. It's a pregnant goddess, and she's blue on blue, and it's Dupioni silk that I've made this out of, and I have a limited number of colors. So I'm kind of working with what I've got, and I'm struggling with these colors, guys. I will be completely honest. It's not working out. So what I've decided to do is going ahead and work with some other fabrics. I'm going to insert some batiks and, just my normal favorite hand-dyed solid reading batiks. And that what will be cool about that is that the Dupioni silk has a sheen to it, has a shine. The batiks will not. So the cool thing will be once this is done and quilted and hanging on a wall, certain fabrics will be reflective, that I want to be reflective, and certain fabrics will not. And I think that's going to be really interesting. It's going to be an unexpected element in the quilt, certainly, but I'm really looking forward to it. And I have a lot more colors of batiks than I do of this silk. So that's going to open things up a little bit more for me. And a large reason why I'm being so frugal with this is because silk is extremely expensive. It used to be plentiful in my area. I found most of these colors and built most of my stash from Mary Jo's cloth store. And this is something really kind of sad. Mary Jo's cloth store is no longer carrying nearly as many fabrics as it once did. And their huge collection of silks and bridal satins have been significantly reduced. And so I don't have access to that anymore. And it's really chancy to buy something like Dupioni silk online because I'm not really sure of the color. And it's like $20, $25 a yard. So yeah, that's a big risk to get a color that I don't end up using. And I've had this stash for so long, I have this tendency to hoard it and hold on to it and not end up using it. So that's why I'm trying to use it up. I'm trying to actually get it out of my stash and into a quilt and be able to enjoy it. And that's why I've limited myself on using it, but it's just not working out with this particular design and these particular colors. So yeah, I think inserting batiks is going to work well. So I'm allowing myself to hand applique up to a point, and then I'm just going to very carefully remove one piece of fabric out of this. Well, I think it's going to be 2 pieces of blue. I need to remove that piece of blue as well. And then hopefully be able to put it back all together again with the right fabric. This is kind of, it's kind of just evolving as it goes, and I'm just letting it do its thing, and I'm trusting that I have the skill to be able to put it back together again, and a whole lot of glue and starch is really what I'm depending on more than anything else. And it's working. I'm loving it. We sat down to watch a movie the other day. I think we watched The Matrix together. and I got a lot knocked out on the hand applique side of things, and this is exactly what I'm craving to do. I'm just loving setting still, stitching one stitch at a time, turning that beautiful edge, flattening it all out, just getting that gorgeous silk to come together in this way. It's just making me super, super happy. And that is the whole point. Even this little bit of a color struggle that I've been having, you know, even if I do have to leave it and leave striped hair, which I don't like, but even if I do, it's not going to be the end of the world. I still, I'm enjoying this process so much that that's okay. I could live with it. My biggest issue is I still don't know the background fabric color, and that has been tricky. I picked out one color, and it's just, the colors just, they seem to be fighting on this quilt, and I'm not used to having that struggle. And I think it's just from that limitation of what I'm using, and I just need to open it up and try out and audition different batiks. What I'm doing is just pinning the quilt up to my design wall, and then I'll pin another fabric behind it and take a look at it, step back and take a look at it. And I know I will have found it when it's like, you know, you get that magical feeling. It all works out right. And instead of that kind of like, tilt your head to the side and squint at it a little bit, that's not the reaction that you want. You know, you're still looking whenever you get that reaction. So yeah, that is what I have been working on, just kind of my putter around time. Another fun thing, here is a picture of it. I have a new machine in my treadle cabinet. I finally gave up on my Singer 12. My Singer 12, this was the machine that I bought last spring for about 65 bucks. And there is such a thing as too old when it comes to vintage machines. I have finally come to realize that that one was just simply too old. It was built around 1880. It has a very old bobbin system that was very hard to find a bobbin, a replacement bobbin case. It's a boat bobbin. And then it also doesn't have standard needles. And I think it was the needles that were really throwing everything off. And even after soaking the machine in apple cider vinegar and scrubbing it and painting it and just doing so many things with this machine, I've just decided this can be a nice decorative piece in a cabinet or on a shelf, but it's not ever probably going to stitch, or at least it's beyond my ability to get it to stitch. And I was tired of being frustrated by it. So I got on eBay and I've been looking for other Singer 12s. I finally decided that was also a fool's errand because none of them, I found several, but none of them were actually in stitching, like actually able to sew, you know, and verifiable that they could actually sew a stitch. And so I just decided, all right, I'm going to have to do something else. My hesitation, though, was the fact that I knew I would have to cut my cabinet, and I didn't want to do that. But after a lot of deliberation, I just decided, you know what, that really makes the most sense, because now with my treadle cabinet cut out, I can fit pretty much any machine in it that was made within a certain span, any machine that could be potentially treadled. And those are machines that are based on the Singer 15 body shape. And this is all stuff that I learned from Cheryl Warren, so definitely check out her podcast episode on treadle machines, because she has such a wealth of knowledge on these machines and how they work and how they can be interchanged. And I just happen to, of course, be difficult and pick one that really couldn't be switched out. The fiddle-based Singers, they were a smaller size, they were smaller cutout, they were very early, and they're just not practical now these days for trying to get something that actually works and could be sewn with. So I got on eBay and searched around and found a Singer 15 clone. And I was looking for not just something that was pretty, but something that had been serviced and could stitch nicely and, you know, could really stitch through some heavy duty stuff, and then also had a motor that could be taken off so that way I could turn it back into a treadle. And I found a really cool one. It's a knockoff. It's not a Singer, it's a Stradivaria, which means it's a Japanese Singer clone. It would have been made after World War II. It would have been made to the specifications of the Singer Class 15 machine, so it will fit whatever I cut out will probably fit any machine of that class. And yeah, it's cool. And it had been serviced and could stitch through vinyl, which I thought was pretty cool. So I took that machine and got Dad's advice. I really took my time on this and asked Dad what he thought about it and how I was going to manage to cut out the hole into the cabinet without accidentally cutting it too big, which is really, really easy to do. So I got his advice. I ended up shooting a video on it. So this will be a tutorial I share sometime in the next couple of weeks. Just making the template, cutting it out. I got 2 nice Japanese hand saws that just sliced through it like butter. I mean, it was so, so easy. And the nice thing is I've been wanting to learn dovetails. I've been wanting Dad to go out to my wood shop and teach me how to make dovetails. And these saws will be perfect for that. So it was kind of win-win. You know, I got the saws ostensibly to cut out my treadle cabinet, but then I can also use them to learn something new, a technique I've been wanting to learn for quite some time. And I'm wanting to learn dovetails so I can make some cute little boxes and do some, I have a bigger cabinet and I want to turn it into an apothecary style cabinet with pull-out drawers. If you've read Mally the Maker, the fiction novel that I came out with last year, you know I love those little cabinets with all those little drawers. I put that in. Grandma's sewing room is like my dream sewing room in the book, and she has this sewing room that's just insane. It's full of all these little apothecary cabinets and you know, nice little nooks and crannies in cabinets and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I really want to learn how to do these myself and make them, and you know, it starts with just making a single box and then going from there. So I got the saws to do it. So I'm one step closer to learning how to do this. So that'll be really fun. Now, speaking of learning how to do some fun things, I shared the last tutorial on Miss Bunny, how to sew her panties. So you can come and check out all of the tutorials from Miss Bunny at mallythemaker.com/bunny. And this particular flaming bunny that I'm holding, this was just a test. You know, I told you guys about making the panel of fabric in spoon flour just to test it out and see if it would work. Well, it absolutely did. I made not only a flaming red and orange Miss Bunny, I made her cute little dress too, and that turned out perfect. I did not wash the fabric before getting started. I just took the panel, cut out the piece, or had Dad starch it first. Yeah, so Dad starched it so it was straight off the press and then starched, and then I cut out all of the pieces. Now, of course, I'm probably not going to come out with this flaming red and orange one, unless you guys really want a flaming red and orange Miss Bunny. When I showed her to James, he was like, that's Miss Bunny when she's angry. So she is bright red and bright orange. I thought that was cute. She needs obviously a different designed matching pair of maybe yellow underwear and dress, but I think she was really sweet. So I need to get back on the program and play around with it, but I verified and did my test, so I know that doing a panel of spoon flour fabric will work, which I'm really excited about. Now I need to kind of fine tune it. And, you know, I had a couple places where I just felt like the dots were coming through and you were able to see it. So I need to modify that and play around with that. And then I really want to do an Easter themed Miss Bunny and a 4th of July themed Miss Bunny. And I had a crazy idea. I don't know if anybody else would want to make this, but I had an idea for a zombie Miss Bunny. So like it would be printed on the fabric directly. You wouldn't have to do any extra stitching, but it would be like, you know, half of her face is kind of rotting off and you can see her teeth and, you know, she's been shot in the heart and, you know, she's like flailing skin. Here's a picture of Dad as a zombie, just to give you a little bit of frame of reference. Yeah, I think a zombie Miss Bunny would be absolutely hilarious. I would enjoy it. So I'm kind of, that's where I'm going with this stuff, guys. You know, when I think of an idea for a Miss Bunny doll and I think it will be funny and kind of cool to make it, then I'm going to run with it and go and make it. That's kind of the whole point, I feel like. And I love seeing these dolls. So if you have made a Miss Bunny doll and you'd like to share it with me, I would love to see yours. Just this last week, I got one from Raynell. She sent me a picture of her pretty Miss Bunny. And every time I open an email with a Miss Bunny doll, and I always react the same, it's always, oh, Miss Bunny. I always say that every single time. It's so, so sweet. And it really does make my day. It totally does. So yeah, it's a challenge, it's like thinking through the spoonflower fabric is kind of so different because instead of, just to explain it really quickly, like instead of like I cut on fold, like something like her chest, which is, it's typically a pattern piece that's cut on the fold, instead you have to open that out and it needs to be the full piece because obviously it's being cut as a panel. So it messed with my head a little bit, just making sure I had all the pieces down and everything right. And now it's making me think of what can I print on the fabric to make it even more interesting. So like in the book, Miss Bunny ends up with a heart stitched on her chest. I could put the heart on her chest. I could add little shoes to her, all kinds of different fun things. That would be neat. I could have the smile, her little smile and her little nose and her eyes, all of that could be printed directly on the panel itself. So it's really opened up a whole, different world of ideas. And now I'm just kind of going, okay, time. How do I have the time to run with all of this stuff? And I'm trying to pursue it and kind of fit it in whenever I can. When James and I sat on the couch and watching Andy Griffith in the evening together, I try and, pick something, whether it's, doing this hand applique or I'm right now I'm taking the book, my new book is Rise to the Challenge of Your Life. I'm taking quotes from that book and then doing hand lettering. So that's another project I'm kind of playing around with. Here is one of my hand lettering. It's just kind of a little on the rough side, but I really want you to see it. So how is that book going? I'm still definitely in the editing phase and it's going really well. I'm excited about it. And I've set a tentative date for releasing this to the world on April 15th. I'm really hoping that I can make that date. Because this book feels like the first step to something much greater. It is a memoir. It's what it ended up being. I kind of really wasn't expecting that, but that's what it ended up being. I still need to do some editing and I want to do these quotes for the print version of the book, but how I'm going to release it first, my plan is to release audio first. And if you guys listened to the podcast last week, then I was kind of practicing that a little bit. I absolutely love narration. It's just so much fun. I don't necessarily like talking all day, which isn't that the same thing? I kind of had to stop and isn't that the same thing, Leah? No, the narration, the reading and the almost voice acting side of it feels very different. And then kind of the end result is I end up talking all day, which kind of is a little wearing and I'm going to have to build up to that. I kind of, after about an hour or two of talking, I'm shot. I have to go and do something else because I just can't talk anymore. So I need to build up to that. I kind of remember when I was in school, my teachers would lose their voices in the first or second week of school because they wouldn't talk as much. And then all of a sudden they needed to talk, 6 hours straight in a day and would lose their voices. So I think this is a typical thing. If you're not used to talking a whole lot and then all of a sudden start talking a lot, I think that's kind of a normal thing to deal with. So I'm excited. I am really, really excited about reading the book and sharing it that way and getting a lot of practice in because as soon as I do that one, I want to do Mally the Maker as an audiobook too. Yeah, so that's cool. And then I'm also planning a large print Mally the Maker book and also a large print challenge book too. Offering books in multiple formats is something that I think we need to do a lot more of in quilting. And it's something that is it's not offered. Big publishers simply don't have the means to offer large print quilting books, but I think it's an area that should be being offered because, even I sometimes struggle. I'm nearsighted, but even sometimes I struggle to read a quilt pattern when the print is too fine. It just annoys me, and it's something that's kind of I'm rolling that into my designs, into my patterns myself, of trying not to squeeze the print down too fine where it's frustrating to read and frustrating to comprehend. The bigger the font, the easier it is to focus on those words and those numbers and not make mistakes. So it's something I'm definitely thinking about. And it is expensive because it, of course, takes up a lot more pages. But at the same time, it opens up, I feel like, that whole side of things for quilters that are having trouble reading small and fine print. So that is something I'm working on and really excited about, large print and audiobooks. And yeah, you know, it's so much fun to be a publisher, and I feel like I finally kind of figured a lot of this stuff out to the point where I can really start to double down on it and get faster. And also, when a book comes out, I really, you know, I don't want to just come out with one version of it. Mally the Maker was kind of, I just didn't have enough time to really get all the versions of that book out that I wanted to whenever it came out. So, you know, it's kind of been a catch-up game ever since. And so now when I come out with future books, I really want to go audio first, or ebook, EPUB first, and then do the print copy, and then do a large print copy. And I think that'll work out better. Oh, or maybe just all of them out at once, which will be so much work, but I think it'll be worth it. I think it will. But yeah, it's something I'm thinking about, just being a better publisher and focusing on that. I still need, yeah, still got some editing on Rise to the Challenge of Your Life, and I want to do those artistic hand lettering quotes and stuff like that. I'm having fun with it. It's really, it's this whole book has just, it has led to so many interesting things. It has created a lot of change and challenge in my life, and more that I will be sharing with you later. And it's been marvelous, and all, in my opinion at least, all good things. So I'm very, very happy that I wrote it, and I'm very happy and thrilled to be sharing it with you in just a few months. So one of the reasons why I haven't been able to get that done as fast as I expected is because I have been working on Friendship Quilt-Along blocks, and this is block number 3, our Tree of Life. So I shared the quilting on a long arm tutorial this week, and that's this one. And I'll be honest, I got this thing started and I hated it. I stitched these curvy dips, like corner to corner curves, and I stitched through about 6 of them, and then I was just like, oh man, this is so bad. You know, I was like, Leah, what did you do? You ruined it. And so I had to force myself, kicking and screaming, to keep on going with it. And I'm so glad I did, because by the time I got done with it, it really, I like it. You know, it wasn't something that was upsetting to me at all once I got it all finished. And this is the thing, I think a lot of times it's easy to kind of get your feet wet with something and then be like, oh man, that's just so terrible, it's just so awful, and really get, you know, Debbie Downer about it. And that's not good. We've really got to stay positive with it, or at least just simply say, I'm not going to rip it. I'm going to learn from this experience. We're going to keep on going. And so I blazed through it, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. So yeah, I did corner to corner curves through the triangles, and then I did sharp stippling through the background. And that worked out great. And I think a big reason why this was a struggle is because I was comparing it to the first quilting design that I did on the tree, and that was undulation, which is bar none my favorite design ever. And so, of course, how do I top it? There's a downside to quilting something in a way that you feel is almost perfect. You can't really quilt that block again and like it as much as you did the first time. And, you know, I would have to say though, after finishing both of them, I like them now equally. No, I'll be honest. I like the one with undulation a little bit better, but they're both done. They're ready to go. And now we're on to block number 4 in March. And yeah, in the mornings I have been, instead of doing my normal writing time while I have been writing, I've been writing all of those block patterns. I put myself in jail because I have a tendency to procrastinate on certain things, and it's not a good habit to have with something like a quilt-along. I'm just being completely honest here, guys. I was procrastinating on getting all of my blocks done and all of the patterns written and tested and really solid. and I was leaving it to the last minute, and it was just becoming really, really stressful. And Josh kind of had a, you need to get serious about this, chick, kind of conversation with me about it. And, I decided, he had a really good point. And so I have been setting aside every single morning to writing block patterns. And so my normal time, I usually write at the kitchen table, and that's usually either, working on Rise to the Challenge of Your Life, the memoir I've been working on, or it's Mally the Maker, the next book in the series. Instead of having that dedicated time to write, I've been writing patterns and doing diagrams, and it's very, very technical writing, and I'm a stickler for detail where, I don't want anything to be wrong, obviously, and then I double and triple check myself. And so here's the reason why I kind of procrastinated a little bit on it, is because it's very stressful and it's hard to do first thing in the morning. And then the whole rest of my day, I'm kind of a little revved up because that's what I've been working on. It's also hard to pick it up and put it down, but I've pretty much kind of got a good system now at this stage where I can pick it up, and then Josh comes downstairs about 8:45 or so, and it's like, all right, I need to shut this down. I need to stop and transition off to, shooting tutorials and getting the next thing done. It feels really good. I'm ahead now. I'm far ahead now. That feels great, but I'm forcing myself to stick with it and get all of them done, because otherwise I'll end up, again, procrastinating, leaving it to the last minute, and I can't do that anymore. Again, want to be a better publisher. I want to be a better person to myself in general, and leaving things to the last minute is just way too stressful to do that anymore. So that's it for the news around the house, and a big thank you to all of the new members of our Quilt Friends Club. This week, Cheryl Fostner, Pam Holstein, Elaine Terspak, Nelda Evans, Carrie Dean, Beth Collins, Teresa Butts, Sandra Smith, Jackie Kelly, Francine Farley, Kathy Gillespie, Michelle S., Susan Brown, Deborah Saizmoza, Eric Oda, and Linda Sutley are all new members and have just joined in the fun. So I hope that you will come and check out the Quilt Friends Club too. This is a membership area for the supporters of the Hello My Quilting Friends podcast. For just $2.99 a month or $24.99 a year, you can help support the podcast and all of the free tutorials that I share online, as well as become my best quilting friend. You'll be able to message me, get in touch, share pictures, and participate in a new video series called How Do I Quilt This? You can share a photo of a quilt that you're struggling to know how to quilt, and I will share 3 different quilting ideas at the end of the month. And this month I'm sharing 2 different videos because we ended up with so many quilts posted for February. So if you would like to get some help picking your quilting designs, you'd like to become my best quilting friend, or you just like to help support the podcast and the free tutorials I share every week, come and check out this new membership club at quiltfriends.club. So I hope that you'll come and join in the fun. And now it's time for the interview with Brandy Maslowski, the quilter on fire, about everything from keeping her studio tidy to planning an awesome quilting retreat. Hello, my quilting friends. My name is Leah Day, and I'm here today with Brandy Maslowski, the quilter on fire. Welcome to the show, Brandy.
Thanks for having me.
So she is actually here from Canada. And a little introduction, Brandy is a quilt teacher, speaker, judge, and the author of Christys Quilt. Christys Quilt is a beautifully illustrated book for kids about the journey of a little girl making her first quilt. It's an awesome book. And Brandy was a firefighter, and then she turned into a fiber artist, and she aims to bring more joy, less overwhelm to quilters around the world as the quilter on fire. So I'm so happy that you're here with me today. And just a little bit of backstory, I met Brandy several years ago when I was on her podcast, and that was Quilt Talk Canada, right? You want to tell everybody a little bit about that?
Yeah, I had so much fun with that show. It was there were so many amazing quilters across Canada and throughout the United States that I interviewed, and it just opened up a whole new element to quilters up here in Canada. It's so nice for us to be able to see what's happening all over the world. So yeah, that was a super fun journey.
Yeah, and you're not recording new podcasts now, but everybody can still go find the podcast episodes that you recorded, and then you're thinking about doing something new, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking of starting a vlog, which is, it's all new, putting your face out there and everything. But I have some friends who've been doing YouTubing for a while, and they're just trying to convince me. So I want to do some fiber art videos and have some fun with that. So that's my next little journey.
Yeah, it's lots of fun. Again, I love it adding the podcast and the video part of it because it just kind of pushes me to show something and have something ready for the next week. So what we're chatting about today is Studio Magnificent. And this kind of goes along with this theme I've got going on this month, which is all about like cleaning up and keeping our studios looking better. And this is kind of a storage solution that you came up with. So you want to tell everybody what it is?
Yeah, I've been doing this lecture since about 2012 because I had my studio featured in Studios magazine 2 different times. And so the first time I was challenged because my videos, like, I would look around my studio and I would be like, why is this studio always so full of clutter? Why is everything so messy? And I wanted to challenge myself on my blog to clean it up. And so I did. And then my challenge was that I'm going to submit my studio to Studios magazine. So that was the first time I gave it a try. I went crazy and cleaned it all up with all my friends and followers online, and they actually accepted me. So I was so thrilled. We did a photo shoot and everything. So that's how it all started. And ever since then, I've been doing this lecture, and it has 5 really good elements you can put right into practice in your studio, and you will come into your studio at the end, and it will be a place that you love to be. You won't walk in the door and think, oh, I've got to clean everything up. You'll just love it. It'll be your creative space.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so my biggest issue, and this has been long going, and that is I don't like to put my toys away. So I make something, I finish it, but I don't put the supplies away that I used. So they're still out all over the place, and then I want to start something else, but they're in my way, and I don't clean it up, and then I get going, and it's like I do that 6 or 7 times, and then I've got this big giant mess. So what do I need to do to change this habit?
It's really important to find the specific things that work for you. So many quilters, I hear them telling me stories right in my lectures. They say, but I've tried every book, I've tried everything, and it just doesn't work for me. So there's a whole bunch of different ways you can do it, and you have to find the one that works for you. So you can sort it like by project, you can sort your stuff by activity, you can choose to sort by color, size of fabric even, or you can sort by event. So you have to figure out, maybe for you, because you don't like to put it all away right after the project, is that you need to sort things so that it's so easy to put it away because there's bins and baskets right all over your shelves right in front of you that there's just no question. You've got 3 cutters out, they go right in that little bucket or bin, and they're right there. Another key is you want to be able to see everything. Seeing is creating. So if you can see all of your stuff and it's not tucked away hidden and you're going to buy a new cutter because even though you already have 12, then that's the way to go. You want to be able to see it all. So
yeah,
hopefully, if you fool around with the different techniques to storing stuff and you find one that really works for you, like there's some really great books out right there right now. So I'll mention my 2 favorites a little bit later. And if you find something that works for you, you'll find that you suddenly are getting excited about clearing your clutter. I know it doesn't sound possible, but you will get excited about clearing your clutter because it's so easy to find your stuff the next time.
Yeah. I usually get really excited about clearing clutter after I've gone to IKEA and bought a new drawer system or like organizer system or new cabinet or big bin. I love IKEA, and it's like an hour away, which is way too close for me. So yeah, whenever I get something new, that's when I really want to clean up. I found there's a habit that I have, and that is I tend to like go buy something new when I'm wanting to scratch that creative itch, and then I end up with even more stuff. So what's the solution there?
Yeah, I think it's really important to not jump on the latest fad of all the most amazing storage solutions at IKEA or in the books and stuff like that. The key is to really sort what you have first know what you have. And then when you go out, you only buy exactly what you need, not all the latest little gadgets and all the latest little storage items. You want to store everything so that it's seeable, so you can actually view what you have. So clear is best. And when you fold things, you fold them certain ways so that you can see everything. They're not piled underneath each other. But I think the key really is to only buy when you've sorted everything first and you absolutely know what you have. Because if you come home with dozens of storage bins, you might find you have too many. You might find you just don't have the right stuff for the right bins. And think about how lovely it is to have your adorable assortment of your favorite little, needle cases or whatever, cutters. If you have those displayed beautifully right on your cutting table, you're going to love using them so much more. And if you just have some big bin they're thrown in, you're never going to find them, and you're always going to want to keep buying things you can't find.
Yeah, very, very true. So are you a multiple projects in progress kind of person, or a one project in progress kind of person?
I have dozens of UFOs like any other quilter, and I find that I'll have to get something really ready for a big thing I'm teaching or a lecture, and then I come home from that lecture and I've got this huge bin of things, and they're all spread out on my futon over there, and then I want to start the next thing right away, or I have another deadline. So I always have multiple projects going at the same time, and I sort my projects in bins, so I try to keep them all in certain bins. I sort my actions by activity. So I have my rulers and my cutters and everything on my cutting table. I have all my fusibles and stuff in a big drawer by my ironing, pressing board. I try to do things by project, by activity, by color. I don't generally sort by size of fabric. I generally sort by type of fabric and color of fabric, because I do a lot of projects that are really color based as a fiber artist. And so it's really nice. I think I try to separate things. If I do a class and go out and do a workshop, I know the reality is that I might not get back to that for a whole year. I might do part of the workshop and not finish it. So I try to keep it all in a bin. So when I do get inspired to do it, I go back to it. And the best time to tackle a couple UFOs is when you're going to a retreat. And if you have them all in a bin, it's so much easier to pack for that retreat.
Yeah, because you could just grab that, pull it out, throw it in the car, it's ready to go. I'm the same way. I keep a bag packed with like a hand sewing project. I keep another bag packed with a knitting project or crochet project. And then I don't even have to think about it. I know everything's already in there. I don't have to go searching around for stuff. I just throw it in the car, it's ready to go. And I love that. So what's on your sewing machine right now? What are you working on?
On my sewing machine, well, I just finished a little fun project. We had this big scrap share table at my local modern quilting guild, and I found this beautiful little piece of silk. It was completely different than quilting fabric, and I am a fiber artist, so I'm attracted to crazy fabrics, but it was this beautiful pink silk. And I never choose pink and I never choose silk. So I wanted to challenge myself. So I made a mini kind of deconstructed fishy with this, this silk fabric. And it was so fun. So I just had some fun with it. So that's what I'm working on right now.
Awesome. That sounds super cute. So what is one of like the major principles you would say of Studio Magnificent? Like what was the thing that you felt like kind of makes the biggest difference for you on like a day-to-day basis?
Well, I think the seeing is creating point is really works for me as a fiber artist, because when I see stuff on my design wall that I've been putting aside and I'm not ready to finish yet, if it's up there every day, then it reminds me, oh yes, I do love that. I want to finish it. If I can see everything in the clear bins, that really inspires me to try and get those UFOs done. But I think if there was one thing I would say to start off with for quilters, the really important thing is to claim your space and prepare your space for creative success. So there are a lot of quilters out there who don't actually have their own studio space. And sometimes it's a matter of just, it could be a little nook in the corner of a hallway where you've tucked a little desk with your sewing machine, and that's okay. It could be your dining room table because your kids are out of the home now and you can use it and your husband won't mind eating in front of the TV. But I think, sometimes it would be fun to say to your husband, what about this spare room? Could I use this spare room for you now that my son is gone? Because, you have the whole garage. Or maybe we could put my sewing room in the garage. And then he'd be like, no, let's find a place in the house for you right away. So it's kind of fun to claim your space and really just have somewhere where you can keep your stuff. So you're not having to pack it away and pull it out for the dining room table all the time.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, it makes such a big difference whenever your machine is in a table and it's a permanent setup, because that just cuts down on all the time of setting up and plugging it in and getting your foot pedal and pulling out thread and getting things wound. Like that to me was the turning point from being a hobbyist and really taking it more seriously. And for me, it was sewing. I began sewing garments professionally first. And when I set my machine out and left it out and stopped putting it away, that was when things started to change for me. How about you? When was that? When did that shift happen for you?
That shift happened early on for me because my husband and I moved into an apartment together very young. We were, I think, 20, and we moved into a single bedroom apartment just for the two of us. And absolutely immediately within 2 months, I said, we have to sublet this place, get rid of it. I need a bigger place. I need my own room. So we ended up going into a 2-bedroom right away. And by 21 years old, he bought me my first really nice sewing machine. I had a junker. And I knew right away that this is the guy I'm going to marry because I have my own room and I have my sewing machine. And that's going to work for me.
Nice. We were in the exact same boat, actually. We had 1-bedroom apartment that happened to be 15. It was like 15 by 15, and there was enough room around the bed that I could have a sewing machine tucked in the corner and Josh could have his computer tucked in a corner. And then we had put a Greyhound dog crate at the end of the bed. You couldn't walk around the bed. You had to roll across the bed to get to the other side of the room. But it worked, it worked. But yeah, I completely relate to that, cramming it all into a tiny apartment. So cool. So tell me about how things are going with traveling and teaching, and you also do judging. Tell me a little bit about that, how that is affecting your flow and what you're making and what's coming out of that too.
Yeah, I have so much fun with my quilting. I've always done it on the side, so I've always had a regular full-time job in the fire safety industry. And so I teach and speak and judge all across Canada. I go to a lot of events in the U.S., and I'm starting to reach out to the U.S. I'm very excited about that. But right now I'm taking my judging course in the U.S., so I'm excited about being sort of internationally certified. But the way that I work it out is that when I take holidays, I luckily get more holidays than my husband, so I take a little more holidays, try to do a lot on weekends. And I just fit in between. And over the last couple of years, I've realized my quilting needs to gradually take over my life completely as I move into retirement. I still have a decade before I'm going to retire. But so I've moved my business to home now. So I have a private consultant business in the fire industry. I'm working from home in my studio. I've got one desk for my office and my computer, and I've got another desk for my sewing. So it works so well now. I can be flexible. If I'm going to go away for 5 days to do a couple of lectures at Quilt Canada, then I can come back and I can work all weekend on my regular job. So it's really flexible. So that's the way I've worked it out with myself. But in the future, this is the busiest year I've had yet. I have 1 or 2 bookings every month this year, which is more than usual. And so I'm so excited about it. And I'm starting to do parts of Canada I've never done before. So I've always done within the vicinity of driving of where I live in Manitoba or in British Columbia now where I live. But now I'm starting to get people interested in from all the way on the East Coast and on the island on the West Coast. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Cool. Yeah, there was a time that my dad was looking at a house in Nova Scotia. I was like in 3rd grade, and he was like, "We're gonna move to Canada." From a girl from North Carolina her whole life, that was a little bit of a culture shock. Never actually made the move, but it was something that I always thought, Nova Scotia, I might want to go there sometime. It would be kind of fun. But yeah, that's always been my Canada story. So have you, what has been the coolest, like the furthest place that you've gone out and the best experience you've had so far?
I think the best experience I've had in quilting was my quilting cruise. So I did a quilting cruise to Hawaii, and it's so funny because I was dreaming about doing it and I saw these teachers being invited to do it, and I thought, gee, maybe one day I'll be big enough and someone will invite me to do a quilting cruise. And I thought, well, if that never happens, I'm going to try to plan one myself anyway. So I put it on my dream board and I started planning, and I made this binder. And then 6 months after I started planning this, I suddenly got a phone call from a travel company. and they just phoned me out of the blue because they found my website and they found me online. So they said, we're doing this meeting, and we were doing this niche cruise, and we happened to have a really successful one in astrology, and someone at the table said, why don't we do a quilting one? And then we found you online. So that's how that came about, and I was so excited. I was like, are you kidding me? I have this binder right in front of me. I really want to do this. So the flight center was able to facilitate all the bookings and everything, and I just got to plan the fun stuff. Nice. So I ended up getting 50 women to come with me to Hawaii from Vancouver, near Seattle area there, from Vancouver to Hawaii and back, and we just had so much fun. I really should do it again. I think the next big thing I'm planning is this November. I want to have a big quilting retreat here in the Okanagan. So if you like wine country, you should come out.
Excellent. Tell me about your retreats. So you've done that before, right?
Well, I've only done personal retreats before, so I've always gone to retreats, and I've either been a teacher or speaker. This time it's my retreat, and I'm planning to have it in wine country where I live here in the Okanagan. It's a semi-arid desert, but we do get all 4 seasons, and we have snow right now, which is so exciting. We don't often get very much snow, but this year we got a big dump. So maybe November, we don't usually have snow by November, so it's kind of a fall, beautiful, gorgeous weather in November, and there's just wine everywhere. So there's all kinds of wineries, and it's just a beautiful resort right on the lake. It's the waterfront resort. It's gorgeous. It's really a good economical retreat, especially for Americans, because you guys get a great deal on the exchange when you come up here. I had about 4 or 5 Americans on my cruise, and they were so excited about how cheap it was because the exchange gave them a really good deal. So,
nice.
Yes, it's super fun. It really is a relaxing retreat, and I have all kinds of fun stuff like a champagne reception and stuff like that. I just pamper you guys when you come.
Nice, nice. And tell me about planning something like that, because my husband and I have considered it, and every time we kind of like immediately step back going, oh my gosh, that's going to be so much work. So we step into it and then we step away. So tell me about the whole planning process and how long that is taking, and kind of how do you keep it organized and make this stuff happen?
Sure. Well, I do it all myself, and first of all, you have to choose your location. So I went to the resort that I love that's closest to my home, and it's right on the waterfront, so you really can't go wrong. But you have to review the entire place. You have to see all the rooms. You have to find the prices. You have to figure out what they're going to charge you for all the quilters for all the food every day. So it's usually between $80 and $100 a day for the food and the quilt space, and they can leave their stuff out all the time. You have to make sure there's enough electrical requirements. You have to make sure there's a variety of rooms so that a quilter could stay alone and afford it, or they could share up to like 6 people in a room and really get a rockin' deal, all kinds of things like that. And then also I think really important is like you want to plan little fun adventures throughout the retreat. So my retreat is one where you just come and sew whatever you want. So instead of having workshops and teaching, I do little demos throughout the retreat. Like it's a 15-minute demo a couple times a day. And I always have like a champagne reception or a bubbly reception at the beginning. I have a big thing at the end. And so my suite in the retreat is a beautiful loft suite. So I stay upstairs in this great big loft, and downstairs there's a space big enough to host a huge family Thanksgiving dinner. So I host the champagne stuff in there. There's always it's quite expensive for quilters to be able to drink wine while they're sewing. So we do everything in our rooms and in the separate rooms, so we don't have to pay big corkage fees and things like that.
Okay. Good to know.
I haven't taken the quilters out of the resort. I haven't planned to take them out of the resort yet, but we may do one little tour of a local winery or something like that. And I'm sure that there's going to be something to do with chocolate as well. That's a big passion of mine too. So.
Perfect. That sounds amazing. And it sounds like, and I've heard this before, where like less is more on the education side of it. Like it's really easy to come to a retreat and then just get kind of overwhelmed with too much education, and if you try and pack it too full, then people cannot have a good time because it's just too. Have you ever attended a retreat where it was just too much? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I've been to a retreat where there were all kinds of classes, and I ended up just opting out of them mostly because I wanted to just do my own thing. And the same thing can happen at big quilt conferences. Sometimes there's so much going on, you just can't take all the classes you want, or you're in classes all the time and you don't get to see the show, so you really have to balance it out. Sometimes it's nice to just choose one really good thing you want to take that you really wanted to learn, and then focus the rest of the time on the vendors and the show and that kind of thing, or just relax and enjoy the retreat. Some little things that I'm thinking of introducing this November are, I'm going to bring in maybe a massage therapist so that she'll have like 24 15-minute slots, and then people can just go and get their shoulders massaged and have, or maybe do yoga in the mornings or something like that, for people who want to do that as an option. So
yeah,
that's a good way to relax.
I think that's a great idea. I have one of my best friends is she was a masseuse, and she could easily set up a chair and do that kind of thing on the fly. She would do that at, different wine events and stuff like that in our hometown. And so, yeah, I think that you should be able to find a masseuse fairly easily, if not one or, 2 or 3 that would be on call and be able to help you out. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
So I mentioned Christys Quilt at the beginning, and guys, book publishing is my thing, and I love to talk about this, so I figured we'd talk about it just a bit so that you can share what it is and how special Christys Quilt is. I love this little book, so tell everybody about it.
Yeah, this story is so dear to my heart. I absolutely love Christy. I haven't seen her for many years. She's almost done university now. But when I originally wrote this book, I was inspired by this little girl. And it was because I'd gone to a quilting retreat for 5 years in a row. It was a winter quilting retreat where you just go, show up, you're there for 4 days. And when you leave, your truck is so covered in snow, you can hardly even get into it. So you just really are secluded there. And Christy lived there because her parents owned the lodge, and she always walked around our quilts to see everything. And then the last year I was there before I moved to BC, she came out and decided that she was going to make a quilt herself, right, in one weekend. And so we were kind of shocked by it because she had talked to someone the year before who ended up not coming because she was ill. And so we all banded together and we got her fabric and supplies, and it was very secluded. So we had to pull anything we had that looked like children's fabric, and it was so fun. A different quilter taught her every element of the quilt, and she made the entire quilt start to finish in one weekend, including applique on top.
Wow. And then you wrote a book about it. Tell everybody about that.
Yeah, I had so much fun. I am a writer through and through. I don't know. I've been writing forever, but I've never tried to publish anything. I just do it for fun or journaling. And I was so inspired that I wrote this children's picture book, and then I got the permission of her family to use her name and publish it. And I put it on hold for quite a while, actually, because I wasn't sure how I was going to illustrate it or who I could get. And I went online and I was looking for illustrators, and it was so expensive. And anyone I loved was so expensive or famous that I couldn't afford them. And the people who I thought could do it who were less expensive really weren't that experienced, and I wanted it to be professional. And then finally, I was at an art gallery gathering here in my local town, and I had a friend who made these gorgeous dolls, and she did all kinds of beautiful art. And I was just chatting with her about it one day, and she said, "Oh my goodness, my 30-year career, I was in graphic design. I should just try to do it for you." So we just clicked, and she went crazy with it, and she did such an incredible job. She did full watercolor paintings for every page of the book. So they're like 2 foot by 2 foot paintings. I actually have one right here, but they're really big, and we had them photographed and brought down to the size of the book. And so there's so much work went into them. And she did such a great job. So, and then, I did the Kickstarter project. That was the last element that really went crazy with it. I can't believe I pulled it off, but I had so much support. My followers and my friends and my family just really came together. We did a $10,000 project to publish this book in 30 days. It was crazy. It was just crazy. I can't even believe. In the end, it was close because you have to make a certain amount in order for the project to go. You have to meet your goals. And my grandfather had he's like, "I've got $500 here in the end in case nobody does the last few bits." So that was so sweet. But we ended up being okay. I didn't need his $500.
Yeah. And that's how I learned about it. I saw somebody posting about it on Facebook or something like that, and I came and contributed a little bit too, because I love that. I love the history and tradition of quilting being carried out and shared with kids, and to have this fun little story to be published. And what was really fascinating was just how you launched it. And it was not just, like, oh, here's a book. It was the Kickstarter campaign kind of allowed you to do a lot of different little things and kind of make that a much bigger deal than I think it would have been otherwise. And it's something that I've kind of continually come back to and been like, maybe I should launch a book like that too. I think that would be a lot of fun. It's not necessarily the whole funding side of it. It's the ability to be able to offer so many different levels of support. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, it was so fun because, a lot of quilters can't afford to buy something and they don't have kids in their family or whatever. And they were able to pledge $1 if they wanted to. And then there were other quilters, or there were other, esteemed members of the community who might not need the book or want the book. They could just donate money if they wanted to. They could do anything they wanted. So it was really flexible and it was super fun. I had so much fun with it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit about Christys Quilt. And guys, that is a book that you can find. And is it available on all platforms like Amazon and barnesandnoble.com? Where have you published that?
I only have it on my website, and you buy an actual copy of it. I was thinking of putting it other places, but I just thought, I like when someone orders my book, I sign it and I write it directly to the child or whoever they want it to be dedicated to, and I send it myself. So you can order it on my website anytime, quilteronfire.com.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Now tell me a little bit about your workshops, because if you're traveling and teaching that much, clearly you're putting out some pretty awesome workshops.
Yeah, I've got 9 workshops right now, and I have a super fun time. I have a couple of patterns. So I have one pattern that's very Canadiana. It's a great big giant maple leaf. And I know you guys down south, you really love, your American flag and that type of thing. So this is sort of a Canadiana one. So that's one of my most popular classes. And that is it's just a gigantic maple leaf. And it became really popular last year, especially because we celebrated Canada's 150th birthday. So some other patterns I have a strip piece tumbling block pattern that's really popular. And then my third pattern is a little table runner that incorporates fiber art a little bit. So it takes the average, sort of the quilter who does regular quilting, loves what they do, but they want to take a little step outside their element and do some screen printing. So that one's called Inksations. So those are my 3 patterns. And then I do all kinds of fiber art classes. So my brand new class that I've just taught 2 or 3 times is called Colorways. And that one is a class to use up all of your favorite scraps and batik in color waves. And it really gets you to dive into your color, play with color, explore, and add a whole bunch of embellishments and yarns and gorgeous things that you've collected. How many of us have collected all of these beautiful things and they're just sitting there and we never use them? Like we have this ball of yarn or this little embellishment or sparkly something, and we just don't use it in anything because you can't really embellish a quilt too much without it starting to look crazy. But if you're making a little fiber art piece, you can add tiny elements here and there and it just looks gorgeous. So that's my latest class. But yeah, I have a lot of fun. It's nice. As soon as someone is asking about my class, I send them a full portfolio so they have it in their hand and they can choose from all 9 options, or they can also choose one of my 3 lectures. So it's been a lot of fun.
Sounds like you're taking it really seriously. I think that is the key. Being able to send, a whole list of, all that you offer all in one go, a nice PDF with images. That I think is kind of the key of all of that kind of thing. That sounds great. And tell me about the little art pieces. Are you making them to be wall hangings? Are you making them to be something else? That's where I get stuck a little bit. I start making something and putting, like today I was piecing some silk together. It was like little itsy bitsy pieces of silk and crumb piecing. And then I'm sitting here with these pieces put together. Now I'm like, all right, well, what is this thing going to be? I don't know. So what do I do with it?
And framing is so important. So there's a couple things you can do. You can always put it in a regular frame, but I find it's best if it's not behind glass. And what I do in my class is we actually prepare canvas or wood canvas, and we use that as our background. So you can get this gorgeous wood panel canvases, and I paint them black. And it's really important once you paint them black to also put a coating on top. So when you put them on the wall, they don't leave black marks on your wall. And once you have that painted, you can create anything and just glue it right on. You stick it right on and it just works perfect.
Nice.
I can send you some pictures later. But yeah, it's really, I've had my stuff in galleries in a couple provinces in Canada. I've had a couple little shows, and the art that sells the best is the art that's sort of either professionally framed or it's on a canvas. If I put up a quilt that's bound on the wall that is a beautiful, gorgeous art quilt, it just doesn't tend to sell as much as if it were framed like a gallery piece. So framing is key.
And because of that, are you making your art pieces to a specific size to fit into a specific size and shape of frame?
No, you can buy any frame you want to. Like, I mean, you usually buy the canvases, they all come in average sizes. So if I make my art piece to be the same size as the canvas, you could frame that afterwards. But a lot of times people buy my little art pieces and they don't frame them at all. They leave them on the canvas as is, and they look wonderful that way too. So I tend to work towards whatever canvas I have available in my studio. I have millions of them. It's kind of ridiculous. I have a whole closet full. But yeah, it's pretty good to. I actually did a huge art piece that was 4 feet by 4 feet, but it was made up of 11 different canvases, and they were arranged in a certain way. And that was one of my best-selling art pieces because I sold each piece individually. I made almost $1,200 just selling individual pieces at that art show. So it was delightful to find out that people like to pick and choose the colorway from a big art piece on the wall. So that was fun.
So it was like a triptych, like it was like split, and so they could buy it separately. It's kind of, I'm putting it together in my head because this is clicking. This is clicking as a system to me, and I love that. And so they kind of had a theme that they kind of look like they went together, but they could also be displayed separately. Am I getting that right? Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I had 4 little ones on the left, and then I had one long one, and then I had a few different sizes on the right, and I just arranged them all on the floor in a way that they fit in a big 4 foot by 4 foot square. Once I had the arrangement down with the white canvases laying on the floor, then I started designing. And so when I did my colorways, this is my class, I teach people, even if they're just going to do 2 in one class, I teach them how to wave the colors of fabric from one piece to the other so that they flow in and out. And all the different fabrics in the 11-piece art piece, they all flowed in and out of each other. And in the end, I ended up making more of them to match the ones that were sold so that I could still have that beautiful big piece.
Nice. I love that. And I love what you're talking about. That I want to take that workshop with you. That sounds like a lot of fun. That sounds really cool. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Brandy. This was delightful. I hope everyone will come and check out your website. You can find Brandy on Facebook and Instagram, and her website, it is always Quilter on Fire. And I've got one last question for you. What are you most looking forward to in the next 5 years? What are you planning ahead? I know you said you were retiring in 10 years, so this is going to get you halfway there. What are you planning for?
Well, I think some of the most exciting things I want to do is travel, but I'll start with my retreat. I'm really looking forward to starting this annual retreat. I want to do it every year, not just once in a while. So the Okanagan retreat is the big thing, but I want to start traveling I've never been to Houston, I've never been to Paducah, and I've never been to Japan either. So some of these big, exciting shows, I'd love to try going to some of those. Check them out.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for being on the show. I hope you have a wonderful quilting week.
Thank you so much for having me. This is super fun.